All right, folks, here we go. Yes. All right. There I am. All right. Coming up, we're going to be live and well, we're live now. Whoa. Very comfortable out here. Very comfortable out here. Here comes some sirens. Is this really necessary? His voice of reason. Hi there, Debbie. Okay. We're going to be starting in just a couple moments. Yes, we are. Again, good afternoon, folks. Big morning in court. I'm going to tell you about it. Oh, listen to that. Okay. We have, excuse me, we have attorney Stephanie Murphy's going to be joining me coming up momentarily. Yep. Folks, it is Friday. We're going to be out with Road Patrol Live this weekend, I should say. Good morning in court. There she is. She's ready. She's in the queue. We're going to go to her momentarily. Yes. Thank you, Jane Rice. People are talking. I want to thank, let's see. We're going to start in 4 minutes, folks. But again, we're live right now on X. There's the courthouse. I'm going back in this afternoon. We are live on our YouTube channel. We're obviously live on Facebook. I want to thank Sal, by the way, who, wow, what a studio. Good afternoon. There's Jane Rice. Yes, there's Roger, Danielle. Hello, everybody. All of our Road Patrol Live folks, we're going to be geared up for the weekend. Looks like, is it possible? No rain? I think it's possible, no rain. Imagine that. Well, actually, I'll have to check the forecast. Maybe I'm speaking too quickly. I have a special shout out I want to give, and I miss him. There we go. We're gonna talk Karen Reed. I am tempted to talk about Governor McKee, 19% approval rating, but we're gonna focus on the matter at hand, which is the Karen Reed trial. Since I was just in court, let me just check our YouTube friends. Again, folks, remember, if you're on X, make sure you follow. If you're on Facebook, make sure you follow and share. And there's our YouTube crowd. Yes, JVA, Hank Friday. He's doing a great job. There's Lisa, excuse me. Yes. Oh, I'm about to. I'm about to. Listen, it's not easy. It's not easy. You're seeing how difficult it is by the fact that Alan Jackson is essentially almost struggling to. JVA just added you as a moderator. Thank you, Michael Donahue. Oh, God. Oh, will you come on? What is your problem? All right, now listen, you got to watch your language. Listen, Turtle, you got to watch your language because I'm live on the radio. I'm already live. Why do you want to go to jail? What? No, I already am live. I'm already live. No, you haven't been live. Yes, I am. No, listen, I have a guest. I have a guest. So if you'd like, come back in a couple of minutes. No, I'm already here. Listen, Turtle. What? Yeah, but you don't have to do it right here. Yeah, but don't interrupt my guest that I'm going to have. I have attorney Stephanie Murphy. Nobody. You no, you don't. Listen, look at Matt Johnson's calling you to come over there. Yes. So where are those? No, it's not. Hey, but do you believe this? See, good. See, the Boston Globe can see this. I'm on the radio, so you got to watch the language. No foul language. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. So none of your foul language about the judge. It's against the Beeswick rules. I don't. Folks, we have attorney Stephanie Murphy coming up. Where are my friends? Where are the boys in blue? He wants to go back to jail. He wants to go back to jail. Ah. Well, folks, we have attorney Stephanie Murphy coming up. We're going to talk to her. Some people, listen, he should just go to lunch. I would go to lunch if I didn't have to be live. There he is. Oh, my goodness. All right, folks, we're going to start in 1 minute. 1 minute. So we'll just work through it. We'll work through it. I don't know about that. All right, we're going to start. Well, folks, good afternoon on this Friday. Again, we are outside of the courthouse. We're live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. You can always listen online at the website, dpetro.com. Now, remember, right now, we're live on X, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, but we are live on the radio. So therefore, we're going to follow all. I'm in the middle of a broadcast, and this portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Folks, remember, right now they have annuals, perennials, trees and shrubs, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets, hanging impatiens, pansy and marigold bags, large selection of beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, tropical mandevillas, and hibiscus plants. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown, DePetro. Now, folks, also, DePetro.com, brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, and they're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. All right, it is Friday. We're outside of the court. We were just inside the courthouse for the Karen Reed trial, and then I'm going to be going back in this afternoon. But it is time for our legal segment, and joining us right now is, in fact, attorney Stephanie Murphy. Folks, remember, attorney Stephanie Murphy at Marin, Barrett, and Murphy. If you ever have a legal situation, and some people like legal situations, you can call them at 401 228 8271. Marin, Barrett, and Murphy. Criminal defense attorneys, some people need them. 50 years experience of criminal defense. It's Marin, Barrett, and Murphy Law Firm, 401 228 8271. All right, folks, let's bring her on. She is our legal expert, and we want to say good afternoon on this Friday to attorney Stephanie. And good afternoon, Stephanie.
Hi, John. How are you? You have your hands full over there.
Yeah, just a little bit. Stephanie, let's start. We will obviously dip into the Karen Reed trial, but I'm just curious your thoughts, and maybe you can just walk through the prosecution wrapped up their case. Now it's the defense's turn. And if you could just touch on the defense did put in today that they wanted basically it dismissed. It was very, very, quick. But if you could just touch on that.
Yeah, so with a jury trial, the defense probably made a motion today in terms of a motion for judgment of acquittal. But that motion's most likely always denied because it's taken with light most favorable to the state or the Commonwealth in this case. So that motion would only get granted if every piece of evidence, every witness testimony taken in most favorable light to the state, if they still couldn't prove the essential elements. So I'm not surprised that it was brief. It's kind of more of just something you do in criminal practice and procedure than something that really has weight and merit. So I'm not surprised that that got denied. And now it's on to the defense's case to present their witnesses And I'm very interested to see who they will call and if they'll call any of those missing witnesses from the Commonwealth's case from the first trial.
Have you seen? I mean, I had one example, and it was way back, but it was during Plunderdome where you had uh, several defendants were on trial at once, and Bacola, he was suddenly right then dismissed before they've been picked up. How often does that take place? How often does that occur?
So in a non-jury trial, it takes place a lot more, in all honesty. But with a jury trial, it's very, very unlikely. In a case where you have multiple co-defendants, if there's no evidence presented against one of the co-defendants for maybe a conspiracy theory, then that judge might knock out one or two co-defendants. But it's very rare in a case where the Commonwealth is prepared for it to get knocked out on a motion to dismiss. It's basically the Commonwealth would have had to present no evidence of some of the elements of the crime. So that's definitely not the case in this case. It's been going on for weeks. So there's definitely enough evidence to let the defense go forward.
Folks, again, our guest is attorney Stephanie Murphy. Stephanie, if you could also touch on, as the Commonwealth, Hank Brennan had to, present that he felt that they did have the evidence, but what everyone seems to talk about is murder too. And I hear a number of people say that, I think it was an accident and so forth. But what Hank Brennan mapped out, and this is really the crux of it, and that is that she floored it backwards, knowing, in fact, that he was behind her. If you could touch on that.
Yeah, so for the different degrees of murder, there's different degrees. And in order to get murder one, there has to be an intentional act that someone's doing in order to actually kill somebody, premeditated, malice aforethought, all of that. An accident with, gross negligence, disregard for human life, everything like that, that would be a different murder charge. But I think what they're trying to say is that this was purposely done to injure or kill him when he was leaving the party.
Now, also, there's a number of people that think that they're going to bring on some of the prosecution witnesses. But if you could touch on, we're seeing already how Defense Attorney Alan Jackson is having trouble asking questions because it's far different when it's your witness and you have to ask open-ended questions.
It's so much more fun on the defense perspective to get up and cross-examine somebody. You get them, going on the flow, yes or no questions. You basically are putting the statements that you want them to say out there, and they're either agreeing or they're not agreeing. Then you get to impeach. On direct examination, first of all, you rarely want to impeach your own witness that you're calling. And secondly, it's really hard to get kind of that flow and that narrative because you have no idea what the witness is going to say.
One other thing, and I want to hear any thoughts you have on the Karen Reed trial, but something that I've noticed is that is a threshold bar, and there was a lot of back and forth in sidebars as far as Stephanie, and it came down to whether or not he could offer an opinion on whether or not, and this is the expert they had, on whether or not he felt it was more than likely there was in fact a collision. I'm not sure. I mean, it was a real battle going on, but he was able to get it in.
Yeah, so if an expert gets qualified as an expert, then a lot of times their expert opinion can come in and they can testify as to what their opinion is, given their expertise. But still up for each and every member of that jury to decide whether or not they, first of all, believe he's an expert and give him the qualifications or the credentials that he deserves or doesn't deserve. So even though his opinion came in, that's one opinion of a multiple number of experts who are going to be called in this trial. So each individual jury member gets to decide how much weight they're going to give the experts. And you don't have to give an expert any more weight than you do a lay person who may have witnessed something. So it'll be very interesting to see what each juror does with all the multiple experts who might be called.
And Stephanie, also, it would seem that the defense, their case is going to be much shorter than the prosecution. I mean, that they just rested, and now all of a sudden, I mean, Karen Reed is saying, well, could be a week or two, but it sure seems as though it could be shorter than that. And I'll tell you why, and people need to understand this, is there the possibility, you have to be careful that if you have too many witnesses, that it actually can help the prosecution, because they're now seeing Hank Brennan up there in full command. So I guess my question is, can the prosecution almost strengthen their case the longer the defense goes on?
Well, absolutely. Just like the defense, although they weren't presenting the witnesses, they kind of presented their case through cross-examination. So the prosecution can do the exact same thing by, attacking the witnesses of the defense call for the good or the bad of the case. And they can also, go off on tangents and distract the jury and stuff like that. So you have to be careful. You don't want to drag on a trial longer than necessary. The defense wants to raise the reasonable doubts, get their theory out there, make sure it's concrete, and then let the jury do their work.
Folks, again, our guest is attorney Stephanie Murphy. And Stephanie, a story that's got a lot of people wondering, how does this allow to go on? Trump administration names Rhode Island 2 cities as sanctuary jurisdictions, mention Providence and Central Falls. There's a lot of people wondering, how is that allowed to go on? And what about some of the other cities and towns in Rhode Island?
Well, I was surprised, first of all, that only 2 towns were named. From what I'm hearing from different people and different cooperation, that only 2 cities were named in Rhode Island so far. I'm not sure whether or not law enforcement have tried to work with them. They just said no, or what's going on with the other cities. I'm not sure what cooperation other cities are given. So it's very interesting that Trump came out and, first of all, just named 2 cities in Rhode Island and not the entire state or something like that. So I'm interested to learn more of what those 2 cities are not cooperating with.
Now, another big high profile case, and that is the Diddy trial. I think because it's not televised, because it's a federal case, still has a lot of interest. Obviously, not the same interest when you can watch some of these other trials. I'm just curious, any thoughts you have right now on the Diddy case?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm reading the articles about it and listening to the newscast, but what I'm really baffled by is all the evidence and all the witnesses that are testifying. I'm not hearing much about sex trafficking. I'm just hearing about a really bad person that treated employees, friends, and people really, really poorly and may have made really bad decisions in terms of other crimes committed. But a lot of the press is not really centered around the charges of sex trafficking. So I'm a little confused of how some of this evidence is relevant, in all honesty, but without seeing it live or hearing the testimony, I don't really know what else is being presented. But I'm really surprised that some of this evidence is actually relevant to these charges.
I'm just one other question about that. I mean, this is a federal case. And Stephanie, so far, and I'm talking about the Diddy trial, so far, it almost just seems like a discrepancy on a domestic violence case almost, whether or not she could have left, didn't leave. I'm just curious, how often do you run into with domestic violence cases where it becomes this? I mean, so far, I agree with you. It doesn't seem like a sex trafficking case, unless, is that something they're going to build towards?
They absolutely might. So in sex trafficking in federal cases, they kind of have to establish the jurisdiction of different states involved or crossing state lines. So they do have to establish that, and I'm not sure what's been done to do that, but it really just seems like a really bad domestic relationship and really bad relationships in other areas. I don't think I've ever had a domestic case like this kind of go federal. You've had other ones of child entrapment, solicitation, and those cases go federal because it crosses state lines. But it's a very strange set of facts for it to be going federal. And I'm interested to learn about the elements that they're trying to prove on the sex trafficking and when those are going to come out and through what witness.
Folks, again, our legal expert attorney, Stephanie Murphy, is with us. And Stephanie, I'm also curious, we have two different stories in the news, and it both have to do with video voyeurism. One is now this incident at URI, and then the other one is at Rhode Island College, and he had already been arrested of the hidden camera in the bathroom. If you could touch on this, and is this one of those cases that, or laws that people don't understand the serious nature of people engaged in this type of behavior?
I definitely don't think people really understand in this day and age. I think people think that videos and cameras are all over the place. So really, what's the difference between one video camera here or there? But when it comes to private places with a sense of security and stuff like that, it's a huge deal. It's a huge infringement on someone's rights. Bathrooms in colleges, public places, stuff like that. I mean, videotaping people when they're vulnerable and not knowing there's a video camera is a huge ordeal, and people need to realize that they can't be doing this.
Folks, now it's time for Murphy's Law. This is a story that attorney Stephanie Murphy has come across. And what do you have for us this week, Stephanie Murphy?
It's interesting that this week, about 8 people were arrested at the 6th District Court in Providence On the fourth floor is all the criminal courtrooms. So they created quite a disturbance.
Yes.
And 8 people were arrested, charged with simple assault and disorderly conduct. But what's fascinating is 6 of those people were arrested on or near the courthouse and then being held as bail violators. So they were out on bail and started a fight or part of a fight at the 6th District Court, which is all videotaped. They have a lot of sheriffs, police, everything like that. So I found it really interesting that 6 of the 8 people were bail violators. And now they not only do they have misdemeanor charges, but now they're facing bail revocation.
That is something that it is rare, only because to me, the amount of police presence that they have inside of the courthouse. So again, folks, it's attorney Stephanie Murphy. Stephanie, great to talk to you. Sorry for somewhat of a little inconvenience, but we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great, John. Thank you.
All right, folks, there it is. Attorney Stephanie Murphy right here. Actually, there we go. Right here on this Friday. Well, folks, again, we are outside of the courthouse, 120. And as you've seen so far, the defense, they're seeing it's not as easy to get a lot of their questions in that they want to. And so I think a lot of people had big, oh, good, big expectations. Right up here, officer. Had expectations for exactly what was how they were going to handle this, and instead what you're seeing is Alan Jackson is struggling with this witness. Now, what I think is really important, and folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Propane Plus. Remember, call them today in Rhode Island, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus, heating and cooling, always online at propaneplus.com, whether it's residential or commercial. You can depend on Propane Plus. You just type in your zip code, it's Propane Plus. Well, folks, good afternoon. You don't have to adjust your camera. I don't think there was a jailbreak, but it definitely seems that maybe there's a flea market in the area of some type. But we're in break right now with the Karen Reed trial. I thought, what was it like this morning? It's a completely different dynamic with the defense now getting a chance to put on their case. And I thought it was effective. And this is so important and why I wanted to ask attorney Stephanie Murphy, because I hear a lot of people say, well, I think she hit him, but it was an accident. But you heard Hank Brennan. Now, granted, this was not in front of the jury, but in closing argument, it will be. And Hank Brennan saying that in essence, she's culpable because she floored it backing up, knowing that he was behind her. And that's where the murder two comes in. Now, the witness that's on the stand right now, this is the first witness that the defense has called. And I don't believe the defense is going to go that long. I don't think they're going to call that many witnesses. Because if anything, what you're seeing is Hank Brennan, the jury is saying Hank Brennan in total command and walking up to the witness and also eliciting that this is someone that really didn't do any type of, didn't really dig into the data as far as, the defense witness. So, and what he's going to try to pick apart is they have someone on there who really doesn't have the experience, who didn't do, anything as far as accident reconstruction, and instead was basically just critiquing some of the work. So let's see how this goes into the afternoon. Now, earlier I did see the plow driver, Lucky Lafren, also in the courtroom. I'm not convinced the defense is going to put on, I'm not convinced they're going to put on a lot of people. You have to realize they're in a totally different situation. I hear some people saying, where's Proctor? It should be obvious now they're not going to call him. And what you have to understand, or you should understand, is it's not as if that the defense could call former trooper Michael Proctor and start grilling him. You can't do that. It's your witness. So what you don't want is someone like Proctor or anyone else for that matter walking away unscathed. And I I really realize a lot of people don't seem to get that. But what you have to understand, Hank Brennan, he explains the case really simply. And I think he did it in less than 2 minutes. As far as he talked about that, she's talked about her drinking. We've seen the clips of her drinking. They have the phone and her Lexus data matching up. And then basically, they have her backing up. Hey, listen, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that in this section. I don't think you're supposed to be doing that. So I know that, but this is supposed to be the buffer zone. And so I don't think that, I know that, but I don't think you're supposed to have signs in the buffer zone. That was my understanding. So, yeah. All right. Well, again, was there a jailbreak? Oh, my goodness. Is that approved? All right. You can stand behind me if it's approved. Listen, listen, Turtle Rider. All right, hold on. Watch your language. Watch your language. Watch your language. So nobody wants to get arrested. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Serve Pro of Providence. Call them today when disaster strikes or call them 401 941 5500. Remember, whether it is a flood or a fire damage or mold, Serve Pro Providence. Call them today, 401 941 5500. When disaster strikes, they're fast, they're thorough, they're professional. Call Serve Pro of Providence, 401 941 5500. Was there a jailbreak? Um, if authorities are watching and there's been a jailbreak and they're looking for inmates, I think we've found some of them. So, folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Roofco, Rhode Island. Call them today, 401 868 7149. Roofco, Rhode Island, 401 868 7149. In just a moment, I'm going to tell you where Hank Brennan has really flipped this case and why the Commonwealth is totally in command right now. And that's why the Reed supporters are so worried, folks. Folks, remember, whether it's a leaky roof or wind damage, missing, lifted, or curled shingles, you can depend on Roofco, Rhode Island. Call them 401 868 7149, 401 868 7149 for Roofco, Rhode Island. Now at 127. So the defense is finally getting a chance. We're outside of the Karen Reed trial. The defense is getting a chance to put on their case. But keep in mind what the jury can unsee. Look at these slides that they're putting up. Does anybody think the jury's interested in these slides? Does Alan Jackson think it's 1975? It's 2025. The jury has seen Karen clips. The jury has seen the blue paint. The jury saw the reconstruction simulation of her Lexus. And what they can't shake out of their head, as far as the jury with the Karen Reed trial, is the missing shoe. Not only did she back up, and the Lexus data shows, think of that, she backed up, and then Officer John O'Keefe's phone never moved again. Remember, right now, he is nowhere near the house. There is no third-party culprit. There's a sneaker. There's no Colin Albert. There's no Brian Albert. There's no third-party culprit. What they're trying to go at now is that they're trying to say that he slipped, and then maybe when she was backing up, she could have maybe bumped into Higgins' vehicle. But remember, the jury isn't, they're not hearing any of that. What the jury, I'll tell you what sticks in the mind of the jury is the brain surgeon, Dr. Wolf. And he talked about the injury to John O'Keefe's brain. That's what sticks in the minds of the jury right now. When you have a brain surgeon, and when he talked about how when she backed up, and in essence, his testimony, Dr. Wolf, the neurosurgeon, last week, his testimony was basically when Karen backed up, and as she said, Karen Reed's own words, I clipped him. At that moment, it's very possible that John O'Keefe was brain dead. And a lot of people have said, if only Karen Reed had called 911, then maybe they could have saved him. But the neurosurgeon changed that. The neurosurgeon from Miami, Dr. Wolf, he made the case for murder too. So you have a couple of different factors, and it's not just one thing. It is. It's the element. There they are. It's the element of, folks, I'm telling you, it's just, it is. It's a full freak show. But listen, they're rattled. They're rattled of how badly the case is going. They're rattled because they don't have Proctor. They're rattled because there's nothing inside the house. Hank Brennan said this is down to science and data. Look at how badly it's going, that they're trying to invade the broadcast. They're trying to stop me, right, from telling you what's going on. It's almost like when the Romans tried to stop, Christ from preaching the truth of the Bible, what's going on. The people that are out there, they shouldn't be afraid of the truth. They shouldn't be afraid of any of the evidence that's coming out. But make no mistake about it. Today, if I want to be objective, and I do, Alan Jackson, I thought it was like the Alessi effect. Alan Jackson is one of, and I've said this, I've actually even told him, he's one of the best trial attorneys you will see. When he's on cross and when he's in the zone, he's not on cross. It wasn't the expert they have was basically just showed, the emperor has no clothes. Hank Brennan showed this isn't really an expert. It's just some guy. I think this is the first time he's testified in court or the second time. And he's just looking over some data. He's critiquing reports. He's not doing the hard work. And I want you to compare that. I want you to compare that with Dr. Welcher. Dr. Welcher, who even dressed up in brilliance. He dressed like John O'Keefe. And I want to address something else, because I hear people say this, that people are saying it's not that effective because they don't show the vehicle, the Lexus, going 20 miles an hour, 24 miles an hour. But I'll tell you what debunks that. What debunks that is because of sports and because of video, we are very much accustomed. Was there a jailbreak? Very accustomed to slow motion. So when Dr. Welcher in slow motion, you don't have to see the vehicle moving 20 miles an hour. Now, Karen Reed said that, but why would she even be saying that if, in fact, she had seen him go into the house? Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Kids Club on the Pike. Now, remember, reserve your spot, summer camp, Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. Kids Club on the Pike. They're right off of 295. It's right on the Cranston Johnson line. You got to realize when they hear Dr. Wolf, they think it's ARCA, but instead, Dr. Wolf was the neurosurgeon from Miami. Kids Club on the Pike. Now, they're right off of 295. This is the perfect spot for your child or grandchild for summer camp. Maybe it's for a week. Maybe it's for a month. Maybe it's for the whole summer. Kids Club on the Pike. But don't get left out. Reserve your spot for Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. So, folks, again, good afternoon. This is day 24 of the Karen Reed trial, and we're going to be back in court this afternoon. Where does it stand right now? The Commonwealth with Hank Brennan, they wrapped up their case. It is now the defense turn to put on their case. I'm not sure how much of a case they have. They just had one person who apparently is an expert, but as Hank Brennan was cross-examining him, he doesn't seem like an expert. The material that he's delivering, I'll say this, it certainly doesn't compare. The jury to me is almost spoiled. The jury is spoiled with the video of the reconstruction, accident reconstruction, of Dr. Welcher dressed up as John O'Keefe, sheer brilliance, and doing the slow roll with the blue paint. The jury is used to the Karen Reed clips. The jury has seen video, the dash cam video of the scene. The jury has seen the ring camera at Karen Reed's. The jury has seen the video from the waterfall as John O'Keefe and Karen Reed walk in, and then she's clapping. This is an unusual trial because it's so video driven. So when this quote expert, which I think Hank Brennan has shown is really not much of an expert, but when he gets up there and he basically is like, yeah, here's my slide. It just seems empty. Alan Jackson, he's normally Action Jackson. It's like the Alessi effect. You know, this is almost the equivalent I'm starting to think of. If you ever play tennis with someone who's not a very good tennis player, actually you start playing lousy. So you play golf with someone who's terrible, you don't play as good. I almost start to think that, is it possible that Alessi has been leading the defense, that they're coming down to his level? I don't know about David Yannetti. I think David Yannetti is going to do direct examination on Lucky Loughran. I think so. So I believe so. I did see Lucky. He's there with a family member in the courtroom. He better be careful, or they're going to start blaming him for this. He better be careful. They're going to start saying that the plow driver pushed him onto the lawn. But I'll say this, listen, this is where Alan Jackson, David Yannetti, they need to try to pull this thing out of the fire. If there's anyone that thinks that this case is going well for Karen Reed, I'll tell you why I think they're wrong. Because last spring, they know what it feels like to be doing well with this case. And it doesn't feel like that. If you've ever been on a team that wins, you know what that feels like. And then it's worse if you're in a team and then you're losing. Much worse, because then it feels different. So for right now, there's no way they feel like this is going their way. And it's not one thing. You know, was Jen McCabe a great witness? Yes. Yes. Unflappable. Was John's niece a great witness? Was Kerry Roberts a great witness? Yes. Was Nuttall, Katie McLaughlin? Yes, yes, yes. The first responders were. You know, the defense has tangled with Uri Buchanan and some of the others, but it's not enough just to tangle. Like, I know some people are saying, and this could be a matter of opinion. Robert Alessi, I talked to the most on the defense team. By the way, he's wearing a very sharp blue suit today. I told him, you saved the blue suit when he's not up in front of the jury. Nice guy. But what I'm saying is, I just don't think his approach, method, and what he has to work with, I just don't think, I'll take the smoker any day, by the way. I just don't think it's that effective. Brennan's effective. The jury knows Brennan. Brennan's leaving the podium. You know what else? Not once have I heard the judge say, Mr. Brennan, raise your voice. And they even have the air conditioner going. They couldn't play the air conditioner last spring with Lally. Lally, how many times a day was Judge Cannone saying, Mr. Lally, remember to raise your voice? He was like mumbling. You don't have that with Brennan. And when Brennan went right at that witness this morning, or actually it was right after 12 o'clock, and started to question him, you could see the guy gulp. You could see the jury really perk up. The jury, my opinion, when they see Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, when they see him in motion, they get the sense that something's up. He's not wasting their time. I'm not convinced that the defense is sitting there. I was kind of surprised at Alan Jackson. I think the jury thought, oh, good. Like, at least it's not Alessi screaming about his hands. Folks, this portion of the program, speaking of hands, you know who could give you a hand with redesigning your home? Arch Design Builders. Call them today, 401 207 4124. 401 207 4124. Arch Design Builders. If you're thinking right now you need a new kitchen, or you need a new bathroom, or a basement, or a deck, or maybe you have a special project, Ed and Roxanne, Arch Design Builders, family owned and operated. Folks, call them today. Call Roxanne and set up that free consultation. 401 218 9707. Arch Design Builders. They'll take on the impossible. 401 218 9707 for Arch Design Builders. If you've been thinking that you would like to redesign your kitchen or bathroom, or maybe you have a special project in your home, Arch Design Builders. 401 207 4124 for Arch Design Builders. Folks, this portion of our program is also brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Now remember, call Corey, 401 283 9815. I'm telling you, either McLean is missing patients or Butler Hospital is missing patients. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating, 401 283 9815. What can they do for you? They can resurface a sport court. They can resurface a pickleball court, tennis court, basketball court. They can epoxy garages and patios. They can seal coat a driveway or parking lot. They offer crack filling, pothole repairs, line striping. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating, 401 283 9815. Well, folks, good afternoon. 1:40 on this Friday. We're going till 2. We'll be out tonight on Road Patrol Live. For many of make sure you follow me on X. Make sure you follow on YouTube. Make sure you follow on Facebook. And then also, remember, visit depetro.com or this hour. And starting at 11, you can always listen to AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. Folks, as many of you know that watch Road Patrol Live, we just keep going. Unless they have a weapon. And there's video of that. That broadcast was stopped when we had, and by the way, he's still being held without bail. He pled no contest. Felony assault. Tried to kill the chosen one with a running lawnmower. But we just keep going. Unless they have a weapon. And as a matter of fact, even though he had a club and was hitting me, if he had not destroyed my equipment, of which I'm still out the money, by the way, people say, oh, the state, yeah, but the state, maybe I'll get something after his murder trial. But the only reason we stopped then was because he destroyed the equipment. But he's being held without bail on a murder one. Now, Karen Reed, this is murder two. This is a murder two charge. But, and I'm sure she is enjoying the various, they try to interrupt. But folks, they wouldn't be interrupting if they were confident about the case. And there's so many different parts of this. As I've talked about, and people can try to do ostrich head in the sand, but you can't ignore that people relate to a cell phone. And John O'Keefe's cell phone was always with him. And John O'Keefe's cell phone stopped moving when Karen Reed backed up. Karen Reed backed up in her Lexus. Remember, they didn't fight the data on that. The defense did not fight the data on that. Karen Reed's Lexus backed up, and John O'Keefe's cell phone never moved again. There was his shoe. I saw someone post, well, maybe he slipped and fell. But would you lose your sneaker, of which they had fun? Would you lose your sneaker if you just slipped and fell? You know what else? So Dr. Wolf, the neurosurgeon, right? The brain surgeon from Miami, he described something very different. He described like that type of injuries being literally like powered into the ground. And John O'Keefe, his head was struck so hard that basically right there, as terrible as it is, but he was basically brain dead. This morning at court, I'll share some other things. It was a nice moment. Hank Brennan comes over and he chats with Peg O'Keefe. And Peg O'Keefe, John O'Keefe's mom, who's so strong, the matriarch of the family, was chatting with her just the other day. She told me to keep up the great work. I'm glad to. She says to Hank Brennan, Keep up the work you're doing. You're wonderful. You know, there's nice moments of that. Now, couple of shout outs. Number one, I want to give a shout out to Chuck Masso, my friend. He ran Chop Miss Charlie's in Jamestown, which at that time was one of my favorite restaurants. He's out in Arizona. He spotted me in the courtroom. Shout out to one of the all-time greats, Chuck Masso. He almost got Jim Bennett elected governor in 2002. So shout out to him. Also, special shout out to my partner in crime, my friend Joe, normally with me every day here at the courthouse. It's very rigorous. It's very tiring right now, and I'm going to call him this afternoon, but he's at Tufts Medical Center. And good thoughts going to our friend Joe, who is an absolute trial fixture here at the courthouse. And he's on the right side of things. But a little bit of an episode, he's doing the right thing, and hopefully he's going to be okay. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Watson Materials. Call them today, 401 885 0600, 401 885 0600 for Watson Materials. Remember, with Watson Materials, right there on South County Trail, you can depend on Watson Materials. Give them a call today, or get a quote. It's the largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. And they just, Sean will absolutely take care of you with Watson Materials. Folks, give them a call today. It's Watson Materials. There's my friend Joe. You're very welcome. Joe was saying thank you for the shout out. You're very welcome, Joe. All right, let me, I want to make sure we talk to our friend Marie. I think so. I think we're going to be able to. Let me just, all right. Yes, Eastern. Who else? Yes, it is. It is like modern time, modern day crazy time. Let me see. I do want to see if we can get Marie, and I don't know. Let me try one other way. I'm not sure why. Let me do this. Only because we want to make sure that we do talk to her as we do. And thank you, by the way. People are complimenting the I want to thank Sal, who put together a redesign of the studio we use for Court TV. And I'm going to be on Court TV on Monday. So you'll be able to see, we'll start off the week with Julie Grant. All right, let me find Marie before we run out of time. It's been a little bit of a hectic Friday, but I'm getting ready. Good, there we go. Getting ready. I'm getting ready to go back into the courtroom. And let's see what the afternoon brings. Hey, crazy. The good news is crazy time is back. Crazy time is back, folks. All right. I think we are going to talk to Marie. Just a couple reminders. Watson Materials. Listen, call Sean. The guy is just fantastic at Watson Materials. 401 885 0600. The most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, Watson Materials. 401 885 0600. Now, I want to make sure, I do believe we're going to talk to Marie. I think we're going to talk to Marie from It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Many of you that watch Road Patrol Live, and folks, if you don't watch it, you're missing out. Do we have a chance at 5,000? That'd be fantastic. Remember, follow us on X, follow us on YouTube. The YouTube crowd is right there. Obviously, Facebook. But also follow on Instagram and also on TikTok. TikTok, we're getting close to 110,000 followers. We will be out. And those of you that follow us on Road Patrol, listen, as many of you know, I mean, we've been at Chad Brown. I can get a little dicey. Hartford Avenue, we have a lot of fans there, a lot of Road Patrol fans. Hartford Avenue projects, a little dicey sometimes. Nice people, don't get me wrong, but can be a little dicey at times. But we just keep going, folks, right? We just keep moving. Nothing stops. Nothing stops. And what you should take away as people are asking about the trial, I'll tell you that I believe right now, I'm waiting to see if the Karen Reed defense can poke holes in the state in the case that Hank Brennan has put together. Because I think Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, I, I think he has met the burden for murder too. Definitely met the burden for manslaughter and alcohol. What I think really hurts the defending Karen Reed is, and why it's a murder too, is as Hank Brennan said, not only did she put it in reverse and back up, and she's talking about that when she saw him, that he didn't look mortally wounded, but on top of that, she made a lot of different calls. But folks, let's stay on schedule on this Friday. Joining us right now, there she is. She's the queen of health, and it's our friend Marie. Good afternoon, Marie.
Good afternoon, John.
Friday afternoon, final Friday of May. Marie, what do you have in store for us at It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland?
Well, we always have some really interesting things going on here. But I guess I was just thinking about allergies because everybody's still dealing with all of the pollen. And just a shout out for honey. Local honey is a big thing. A lot of people find it helps. It doesn't have to be like local in your backyard, but in the general area. So, Northern Rhode Island, definitely, we have lots of honey from Betty's Bee Farm, and people love it. The other thing is, one of the things I learned with allergies is it's really about your gut. So what you eat, how you take care of your gut. We have a great thing called Vital Gut Renew, can help with all kinds of things going on with the lining of the gut. And I have found that it has helped enormously with allergies. Getting the gut under control can help with any seasonal allergies. And then we do have some herbal things. The nettles in here, the quercetin in here are really helpful. This one's great if it's all in the sinuses, because you take this and within 20 minutes you can breathe. So if it's all in the sinuses and you're really stuffed up, that's great. And then you take it once a day while you're in the middle of allergy season. So, and some other homeopathics too that can target the sinuses, that can target the general symptoms of runny, itchy eyes and runny nose and scratchy throat and all of that good stuff.
Marie, can you touch on the honey? My son, who works out 7 days a week, but he'll have, and I've seen him do it, it's almost like a shot. He'll have a spoonful of honey before he's going to work out at the gym. What's the effect of that?
Well, honey is really a pretty amazing food when you think about it, what the bees make. It's just full of nutrients and can give really good energy. So that's why even during a cold, taking allergies, people who work out people will take honey if they have a cold. They will also take it for working out because it does give them, it's a sugar, but it's a really good sugar, so it works with the body and it has a lot of enzymes in it. If you're doing local honey, if you're doing something from a bee farm, if you're doing something from the supermarket, no guarantees there, because then they pasteurize it and they kill all the enzymes. But the enzymes will live forever. They found honey that's 2,000 years old and it's still good.
Wow.
But
Now, Marie, also, what do you have going this weekend at It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland?
So we have yoga, we have Pilates happening this weekend on Saturday morning, and we have Tai Chi on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do have a beginner class on Thursday nights that's wide open. Anybody wants to try and come to that.
What else do you recommend this time of year, or a product that maybe you really, really want to recommend for people?
So a lot of stress, right? People are under a lot of stress.
Tell me about it. Yep.
A lot of anxiety. Um, as you can tell by the sirens and things in the background,
Yes.
there's always something going on.
You got
Gabatrol.
that
So,
right. Yes.
yep, uses something, GABA is really helpful for shutting the brain down. People like it for sleep. They like it at the end of the day after a stressful day, just taking some GABA and some L-theanine too.
Now, folks, again, stop in and see her right on Mendon Road in Cumberland, diagonally across from Davenport Restaurant. She is the queen of health. Marie, you make it. So many fans out there, and you're helping people and staying natural. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, John. Take care.
All right, folks, there it is. Marie at It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Now, coming up, if you're listening to the radio, you're going to hear the 2 o'clock news. I'm going to be heading back into the courthouse for the afternoon session, but I want to remind you about J. Perry Paving. Let me just move this out of the sun. J. Perry Paving. Folks, call them today. And remember, the thing about, here we go, of J. Perry Paving, high quality, fair pricing, exceptional service, 20 years experience, specializing in commercial paving, residential paving, seal coating patios. It's J. Perry Paving. Call them for a free estimate. You know, as I talked about, Father's Day is coming. You know what your dad would love? His driveway paved. J. Perry Paving. Let them pave the driveway. And remember, no one has a better package for veterans than J. Perry Paving. 401 732 1730. 401 732 1730. Letter J. J. Perry Paving. Maybe your dad is a veteran. Maybe your mom is a veteran. Maybe your grandfather or your boyfriend or your son or daughter. J. Perry Paving. But Father's Day's coming up. I'll tell you, does dad want a new bathing suit? Maybe. But you know what he'd love? His driveway paved. Call today, 401 732 1730 for letter J. J. Perry Paving. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, here we are. A couple other reminders, actually. I want to recommend to you Mosquito Joe of Rhode Island. I share their Facebook page. Folks, it makes no sense that many times we can't share, we can't share the outdoors as soon as nighttime hits because you're going to get eaten alive. Not with Mosquito Joe Rhode Island. Call them. They handle my property. It's fantastic. 401 426 2032. So I think they're going to be heading back into court from the lunch break, and I'll be heading in as well. I also want to remind you about JD Lawn Care and Tree Service. Call them today. Everything regarding your trees and property, 401 441 0154. And also, I was live on television just the other day, and I did it from my deck at home. And I had people around the country asking me about, well, how does my grass, how do I get my grass that way? Folks, it's because of Lawn Doctor. Call Lawn Doctor today, or better yet, if you go onto their website, they have a great user-friendly website. It's lawndoctor.com, and you just type in your zip code. They have a great website, and your best lawn ever guaranteed. It's Lawn Doctor. Well, folks, again, good afternoon. 1:58. Now I'm going to be heading back into the courthouse, and this is different. This is a different trial with the Karen Reed case. Why is it different? It's different because the defense is obviously presenting their case. But what I'm telling you, um, I I believe that the defense needs to be cautious. And the reason why I think they need to be careful, and again, remember, folks, follow us on X, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, check out depetro.com. You can support the program. You can advertise on the program, sponsor the program. But where they need to be really cautious here is they've been watching Hank Brennan, where he's doing direct examination, all open-ended questions, much different on cross. And Hank Brennan is a phenomenal uh, defense attorney as far as cross-examination. Much different. I think the defense, Karen Reed defense, they need to be careful because what they could allow is Hank Brennan could actually strengthen his case the more witnesses they put on. I don't think it's going to go that long. I think the Karen Reed defense, I think that they're trying to just keep them guessing. I think maybe a week. I think it's going to be over sooner rather than later. All right. I want to thank you for tuning in on this Monday. Thank you to Stephanie Murphy. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we'll see you later tonight on Road Patrol Live. I'm headed back in the courtroom.